Welcome to The Explainer. What if the founding of America wasn't really about freedom, but was actually more like a giant, meticulously planned business venture? Today, we're diving into a powerful argument that completely flips the script on the nation's origins, framing it as a massive strategy for extracting wealth. So, the main idea we're digging into is right here, that the entire colonial project was, at its heart, a wealth transfer scheme. This view really pushes back on the traditional story we're all told, suggesting that from the very beginning, the real goal was economic gain on a scale nobody had ever seen before. So, how did this massive scheme actually work? Well, according to this analysis, it was built on three very distinct pillars of wealth extraction. Each one was designed to systematically pull value from a totally different source. Now, this wasn't just one thing, right? It was a coordinated three-part strategy. The scheme went after the land, which was the number one asset. It went after labor, the human engine to make that land productive. And then it went after customers by literally turning their health into a product. So let's kick things off at that first pillar. All right, it all starts here with the first and most foundational pillar, the land itself. You could say it was the ultimate prize. And the logic here is pretty straightforward, but it's incredibly powerful. Land is where all tangible wealth comes from: food, resources, minerals, you name it. So if you want to control the wealth, you've got to control the land first. And this breaks down exactly how that transfer happened on the ground. Picture this. An English settler shows up with a piece of paper, a deed, for land he has never even seen. But that land isn't empty. It's already home to a family. It's already being farmed. That deed basically becomes the legal justification for taking it all, the land, the home, even the crops in the field, by force. Okay, so you've got the land, but that land isn't going to work itself, is it? And that brings us right to the second pillar of the scheme, extracting labor. And we're not just talking about unpaid work here. The argument is that this was about stealing the very life force, the energy, the time, the potential from other human beings and turning it into profit. This new wealth was built entirely on the backs of an unpaid workforce. At first it was indentured servants, people working on temporary contracts, but it very quickly shifted to the brutal, permanent system of enslaved people who were forced to work for literally nothing more than what it took to stay alive. And even mail-order brides and children got pulled into this system of extraction. Now we get to what might be the most surprising part of this whole argument, a third pillar of wealth transfer. But this time, the value wasn't being taken from the people in the New World. It was being taken from the colonists' own citizens, all the way back in England. You see, the Jamestown colony was, well, it was a total disaster at first. It was failing miserably. But then a colonist named John Rolfe figured out a way to cure tobacco that made it smooth, incredibly addictive, and reliably flavored. He created a product that could finally make the entire colonial project profitable. Just look at this timeline, because it's pretty wild. As far back as the 1590s, doctors in England already knew that tobacco was a deadly narcotic that shortened people's lives. But despite knowing this, just 20 years later, the Crown launched a huge advertising campaign to deliberately get its own population hooked on the stuff. And why? To save the failing Virginia colony and make some money. This was a wealth transfer, plain and simple, from the customer. By knowingly selling a deadly product, the empire was turning the health, the money, and even the years off the lives of its own citizens directly into profit. They effectively became, as the source puts it, the world's first ever drug dealer empire. So, what's the legacy of a society that was founded on these three pillars of extraction? The argument is that it created a very unique and lasting cultural mindset, one that continues to shape American society to this day. This foundation, the idea goes, led to a culture where relationships are often seen less as community bonds and more as simple transactions. The goal of any interaction often boils down to one thing: what can I get out of this for myself? And you can see this stark contrast in how business gets done. In many cultures, maybe in parts of Europe or in Japan, the main goal is building a long-term relationship. You might even take a small loss up front just to build trust. But then there's the transactional model. The only goal is to win this one specific deal. You negotiate hard for every single detail because, hey, you don't expect to ever see the other party again. And this is the core connection, the mindset you would need to seize someone's land or exploit their labor or sell them a poison, a mindset where you have to kind of dehumanize the other side and see everything as a zero-sum game. That, the argument goes, became the blueprint for the entire culture. And all of this leaves us with a final, really challenging question to chew on. If a nation's founding DNA is programmed to see every interaction as a chance for extraction, what is the long-term price of that? What does it do to the social fabric, to its institutions, and ultimately to its future?